Many people pray for God as blessings, but few pray for the strength to carry them. What if the very thing you're asking God for could pull your heart away from Him? Before you ask for increase, ask for wisdom. Before you ask for more, ask for obedience. You may have been taught, quietly or openly, that if God blesses you, life should become easier. That when favor comes, struggle should leave. That when doors open, resistance should disappear. Many people carry this belief without questioning it. They assume that blessing is proof of arrival, not assignment. But this belief, if left unexamined, can quietly weaken your walk with God. Because blessing is not the end of faith. It is the beginning of responsibility. Ask yourself gently, when God increases something in your life, does it always feel lighter? Or does it often feel heavier? When provision expands, does the heart automatically grow stronger? Or does it face new temptations it never had to face before? The truth rooted in faith is this: blessing does not remove the need for obedience. It magnifies it. Blessing does not cancel discipline. It tests it. Blessing does not guarantee protection from stumbling. It reveals whether your steps are anchored. This is why a wise believer does not only pray for blessing. You pray that God's blessings will not become a stumbling block. You pray that increase will not outrun character. You pray that provision will not silence dependence. You pray that favor will not dull reverence. Not your will, but His will. Not your timing, but His timing. Not your comfort, but His purpose. Think of growth like a tree planted by a careful gardener. The gardener does not measure success by how fast the branches spread. He watches the roots. Roots grow in darkness. Roots grow unseen. Roots grow through pressure and resistance. If the branches grow faster than the roots can support, the tree becomes unstable. When strong winds come, the very growth that looked impressive becomes dangerous. In the same way, God often works beneath the surface of your life long before He allows visible increase. What looks like delay is often reinforcement. What feels like silence is often structure. Day by day, God strengthens what you cannot see. Day by day, He deepens what no one applauds. Day by day, He forms endurance in the hidden places of your heart. And when blessing comes, it rests on something prepared. This is why sudden success without preparation can be spiritually violent. It exposes weaknesses you did not know were there. It amplifies desires you never had to manage. It invites distractions you were never trained to resist. Preparation is not punishment. Preparation is alignment. There is a spiritual law that cannot be bypassed. Capacity must match calling. Timing must match maturity. Weight must match strength. God does not rush harvest before the soil is ready. He does not release rain where there are no roots. He does not increase responsibility before obedience has been practiced in small things. This is not delay. This is protection. Ask yourself honestly, are you praying for outcomes God has not yet prepared you to steward? Are you asking for doors without asking for wisdom to walk through them? Are you desiring visibility without asking for humility to remain grounded? Not your will, but His will. This prayer guards your heart from ambition disguised as faith. Pressure is one of God's most honest tools. Pressure does not create what is inside you. It reveals it. When blessing increases, pressure follows, decisions multiply. Expectations grow. Temptations become subtle. Under pressure, the heart shows its true posture. Is it surrendered or self-directed? Is it grateful or entitled? Is it listening or assuming? Consider a believer who prayed for financial provision for years. When the provision finally came, generosity slowly faded. Prayer time shortened. Dependence weakened. What once drove them to their knees now gave them options. The blessing was real. But without discipline, it became a quiet stumbling block. Not because money is evil, but because stewardship was neglected. Pressure revealed the heart's direction. Now consider another believer who was entrusted with influence. Their voice began to reach many. Opportunities multiplied. Instead of relying on excitement, they anchored themselves in routine obedience. They kept prayer unglamorous. They sought correction. They guarded their schedule. The pressure did not elevate pride. It refined humility. The blessing did not distract. It deepened faith. The difference was not the blessing. It was the posture. Focus is sacred stewardship. Distraction is not neutral. Every blessing demands attention. Attention must be guarded. When God gives you more, you must decide what will still have your first loyalty. Focus is not merely productivity. It is devotion expressed through consistency. When focus drifts, obedience becomes fragmented. When obedience fragments, faith weakens quietly. You are not called to chase everything that opens. You are called to remain faithful to what God has entrusted to you. Ask yourself, has blessing expanded your obedience or scattered it? Has increase sharpened your listening or crowded it? Focus says, not my will, but His will. Focus protects purpose from excess. Growth follows a path that does not change. You learn, you apply, you examine, you correct, you remain faithful. This path is not exciting, it is effective. Learning without applying produces knowledge without transformation. Applying without examining leads to blind repetition. Examining without correction breeds awareness without change. Correction without faithfulness produces short-term adjustment. But remaining faithful allows growth to take root. Day by day, this process forms strength. Day by day, it builds discernment. Day by day, it trains the heart to handle more without losing itself. Discipline is not a feeling. It is faithfulness practiced when emotion is absent. Discipline says yes when excitement is gone. Discipline says no when options are attractive. Discipline honors God when no one is watching. Strategic patience is wisdom. Seasons do not respond to urgency. You cannot rush winter into harvest. You cannot force fruit from unripe branches. Time is not your enemy. Time is God's instrument. Waiting is not wasted when it is obedient. Waiting refines motives. Waiting strengthens trust. Waiting teaches you to value presence over outcome. Reflection is not self-criticism. It is humility. Correction is not failure. It is alignment. When God blesses you, reflection becomes essential. Ask yourself, what is this increase revealing about me? Where do I need to adjust? What habits must be strengthened? What attitudes must be surrendered? Humility keeps blessing from becoming dangerous. Spiritual momentum is built through consistent obedience. Small faithfulness compounds. Quiet discipline accumulates. Daily surrender produces long-term strength. Momentum does not come from dramatic moments. It comes from repeated obedience. Over time, this obedience carries you through seasons of increase without losing balance. Breakthrough is not an event you wait for. It is a walk you commit to. It is choosing obedience today, regardless of tomorrow's outcome. It is trusting God with both increase and restraint. It is praying not just for blessing, but for wisdom to carry it well. So you pray, Lord, bless me, but guard me. Increase me, but ground me. Open doors, but steady my steps. Let nothing you give me become something that leads me away from you. Teach me to walk slowly when the pace increases. Teach me to listen closely when noise grows louder. Teach me to remain faithful when the view expands. Day by day, you choose obedience over excitement. Day by day, you choose discipline over impulse. Day by day, you choose humility over entitlement. Not your will, but His will. This prayer keeps blessing in its proper place, not as a crown to wear, but as a trust to steward. Because the greatest blessing is not what God places in your hands. It is what He forms in your heart. And when your heart is anchored, blessing becomes a tool, not a trap. It becomes fuel, not distraction. It becomes testimony, not temptation. And as you continue walking, you begin to understand something deeper. God is not withholding from you. He is preparing you. Every delay is shaping capacity. Every quiet season is reinforcing roots. Every small obedience is strengthening muscles you will need later. You begin to see that what you once called waiting was actually training. Ask yourself again, slowly and honestly, if God answered every prayer for increase right now, would your inner life be strong enough to carry it? Would your prayer life survive it? Would your humility remain intact? Would your obedience stay focused? These questions are not meant to discourage you. They are meant to protect you, because many stumble not when they lack, but when they receive. Many drift not in famine, but in abundance. Many lose clarity not in hardship, but in comfort. This is why a mature believer prays with wisdom. Lord, do not give me anything that will replace you. Do not let success speak louder than your voice. Do not let comfort weaken my vigilance. Pressure will come. Increase will test you. Opportunity will stretch you. And in those moments, what's been built in the quiet will either hold you steady or expose the cracks. This is why daily faithfulness matters more than dramatic faith. This is why obedience practiced in secret becomes protection in public. You begin to notice how God trains you to slow down even as life speeds up. He reminds you to pause before responding, to pray before deciding, to listen before acting. These pauses are not inefficiency. They are spiritual breaks. They keep momentum from becoming recklessness. When blessings arrive, gratitude must deepen, not fade. Gratitude keeps your heart soft. It reminds you that nothing you have is self-produced. Gratitude turns provision into worship. Without gratitude, blessing becomes entitlement. With gratitude, blessing becomes stewardship. Correction will always be part of growth. God corrects those he trusts. Correction is not rejection, it is guidance. When you sense conviction, do not resist it. Lean into it. Ask what needs adjustment. Ask what habit needs refining. Ask what attitude needs surrender. This responsiveness keeps your path straight. Over time, you begin to experience spiritual momentum that feels different from excitement. It feels steady. It feels grounded. It does not rush. It does not panic. It does not chase validation. It simply continues. This momentum is powerful because it is sustainable. It is built on obedience, not adrenaline. You realize that the most dangerous prayer is not asking for too much. It is asking without readiness. And the safest prayer is not asking for less. It is asking for alignment. Lord, align my desires with your wisdom. Align my pace with your timing. Align my strength with my calling. As you walk this way, blessing no longer threatens you. It serves you. It no longer competes with God. It points back to him. And your life becomes a quiet testimony. Not of speed, but of steadiness. Not of noise, but of depth. Not of accumulation, but of faithfulness. You understand now that stumbling is not prevented by avoiding blessing. It is prevented by cultivating obedience. And obedience is not heavy when it is rooted in love. It is freeing. It simplifies decisions. It clarifies direction. It steadies the heart. So you continue day by day, step by step, prayer by prayer, adjustment by adjustment. You do not rush the process. You trust it. You allow God to form you as he increases you. You welcome correction as care. You receive discipline as love. And in this way, you discover that God's greatest gift is not the blessing itself. It is the wisdom to carry it without losing your soul. It is the strength to remain faithful when many would drift. It is the grace to walk humbly when many would elevate themselves. You keep praying the prayer that guards your future. Lord, bless me, but never let your blessings replace you. Keep my heart tender, keep my focus clear, keep my obedience steady. Let every increase draw me closer, not further. Let every open door deepen my dependence, not diminish it. And as you stand in this posture, something beautiful happens. You stop fearing blessing. You stop idolizing it. You simply receive it as part of the journey. A journey where God leads, corrects, and sustains. This is how you walk safely through increase. This is how you remain upright in abundance. This is how blessing becomes a testimony instead of a trap. And as your life continues to unfold, you begin to notice that the quiet disciplines you once struggled to maintain have become natural. Prayer is no longer something you force. It is something you return to. Obedience is no longer a burden. It is your reflex. Discernment sharpens, not because you sought power, but because you practice humility. The more God entrusts to you, the more you realize how much you need him, not less. More. This awareness keeps you grounded. It keeps you listening. It keeps you teachable. And teachability is one of the strongest protections against stumbling. You learn to celebrate growth without becoming intoxicated by it. You learn to acknowledge progress without assuming arrival. You learn to receive affirmation without letting it shape your identity. Your identity remains anchored. Child of God, servant, steward. And when challenges come alongside blessing, you are not confused. You understand now that difficulty does not mean disfavor. It often means refinement. You do not panic when pressure increases. You examine your heart. You adjust where needed. You remain faithful. This is how God trains you to carry weight, slowly, carefully, intentionally. He adds load as strength increases. He allows resistance as capacity grows. He never wastes a season. He never rushes formation. So when you pray for blessing, your prayer sounds different now. It is quieter, deeper, wiser. Lord, do what will keep me close. Give me what will strengthen my obedience. Remove what will weaken my devotion. Shape me before you elevate me. Ground me before you expand me. This prayer is not fear-based. It is faith-based. It trusts God not only to give but to guide. It believes that His wisdom surpasses your desires. It rests in the truth that He sees the whole path, not just the next step. And as you continue walking, you realize that stumbling is not the end of the story. Even when you misstep, God is patient. Correction restores direction. Repentance realigns the heart. Grace lifts you back onto the path. The goal is not perfection. It is faithfulness. So you keep walking, with eyes open, heart surrendered, hands steady. You remain vigilant, not anxious, expectant, not entitled, hopeful, not hurried. And you remember always, not your will, but His will. This truth guards you. It centers you. It keeps blessing in its rightful place, under His authority, within His purpose. As the days pass, you begin to see how God weaves everything together. The waiting, the increase, the correction, the quiet disciplines. Nothing is random. Nothing is wasted. Everything is shaping you into someone who can carry blessing without being carried away by it. You stop measuring success by speed. You measure it by steadiness. You stop measuring favor by comfort. You measure it by closeness. You stop measuring blessing by accumulation. You measure it by obedience. And this perspective brings peace. Deep peace, the kind that does not rise and fall with circumstances. The kind that remains when outcomes are uncertain. The kind that anchors you when life accelerates. You understand now that God's blessings are safest in the hands of those who remain small in their own eyes. Those who stay dependent, those who stay grateful, those who stay disciplined. So you continue to pray, continue to listen, continue to adjust, continue to remain faithful. And in doing so, you walk a path where blessing becomes a witness to God's goodness, not a stumbling block to your soul. And as you keep walking this path, you begin to notice another quiet truth settling into your spirit. God often answers prayers in layers, not all at once. What you receive first is not always what you asked for. Sometimes He gives clarity before provision. Sometimes He gives restraint before release. Sometimes He gives discipline before expansion. These are not detours, they are safeguards. You realize that obedience today protects you from regret tomorrow. That restraint now preserves joy later. That saying no to yourself in small ways trains you to say yes to God in larger moments. Day by day, these choices shape you. Day by day, they form a stability that no sudden success can give. Ask yourself again gently, are you more concerned with receiving from God or remaining aligned with Him? One leads to pressure without peace. The other leads to peace even under pressure. Alignment keeps blessing from becoming heavy. Alignment keeps increase from becoming confusing. When you remain aligned, you stop comparing your journey with others. You stop measuring progress by visible milestones. You trust the pace God has chosen for you. You understand that slow growth is often strong growth. That quiet obedience often outlasts loud achievement. You also begin to see how easily blessing can demand your attention if you are not careful. More responsibility means more decisions. More options mean more noise. More opportunity means more invitations to divide your focus. This is why guarding your inner life becomes essential. Prayer is no longer optional. It is maintenance. Scripture is no longer informational. It is nourishment. Silence is no longer empty. It is restorative. Without these anchors, blessing pulls you outward until you are stretched thin. With them, blessing settles into place. It serves instead of consuming. It supports instead of distracting. Humility becomes your daily companion, not because you think less of yourself, but because you think of yourself less. You recognize your limits. You acknowledge your need for guidance. You remain open to correction. Pride isolates. Humility keeps you connected to God's direction. Correction, when received well, sharpens discernment. It keeps small errors from becoming large deviations. When God convicts you, it is not to shame you. It is to steer you. The earlier you respond, the gentler the adjustment. Resistance makes correction heavier. Surrender makes it lighter. You learn to pause before celebrating, to ask, what does this require of me now? What must I protect? What must I strengthen? What must I let go of? These questions keep your heart attentive. They keep you grounded. Over time, obedience builds a quiet confidence, not arrogance, assurance. You trust God's leading because you have followed it consistently. You are not shaken by sudden changes. You are not overly impressed by sudden opportunities. You weigh everything through prayer. This steadiness allows you to endure seasons where blessing and burden arrive together. You are not surprised when growth comes with strain. You understand that expansion always stretches capacity. You lean into God rather than pulling away. And when others stumble under similar pressure, you do not judge them. You intercede. You understand how subtle the pull can be, how easy it is to drift when life becomes full. Compassion grows in you because you know your own dependence on grace. You begin to see your life less as a series of achievements and more as a stewardship. Time is a stewardship. Energy is a stewardship. Influence is a stewardship. Blessing is a stewardship. And stewards do not own what they manage. They remain accountable. This accountability keeps you attentive. It keeps you prayerful. It keeps you sober-minded even in seasons of joy. Joy does not disappear. It deepens. It becomes quieter, steadier, more rooted. Day by day, you continue the simple practices. You learn. You apply. You examine. You correct. You remain faithful. There is no shortcut. There is no replacement. This is the path that sustains you. And as years pass, you look back and realize how many dangers God quietly diverted you from. How many things you once desired would have harmed you if received too early? How many blessings arrived at just the right moment when your hands were steady enough to hold them? Gratitude grows stronger because perspective deepens. You thank God not only for what He gave, but for what He withheld. Not only for open doors, but for closed ones. Not only for increase, but for the discipline that preserved you. You also realize that stumbling is rarely sudden. It is gradual. It begins with neglect, with small compromises, with prayer becoming rushed, with listening becoming selective, with obedience becoming conditional. This awareness keeps you alert. You address small drifts before they become large falls. You choose consistency over intensity, faithfulness over urgency, obedience over impulse. These choices may not feel dramatic, but they are powerful. They keep you upright when circumstances shift. As blessing continues to flow in different forms, you no longer fear it. You respect it. You handle it carefully. You hold it loosely. You remember that everything in your hands can return to God at any moment. This posture frees you from anxiety. You understand now that God's goal is not to give you everything you want. It is to make you someone who can walk with Him through anything. Blessing serves that purpose only when it is carried with humility. So your prayer remains steady. Lord, keep me faithful. Keep me teachable. Keep me grounded. Let my private obedience exceed my public blessing. Let my inner life be stronger than my outer life. Let nothing you give me weaken my dependence on you. And this prayer is answered daily, sometimes through restraint, sometimes through correction, sometimes through quiet affirmation, sometimes through redirection. You accept all of it as care. You see now that spiritual growth is not about avoiding difficulty. It is about being formed through it, not about escaping pressure, but about being shaped by it. Not about chasing blessing, but about honoring God with whatever He entrusts to you. This understanding settles deep within you. It brings clarity. It brings peace. It brings endurance. You walk forward without rushing. You trust God without demanding. You obey without bargaining. Not your will, but His will. And in this way, blessing never outruns your character. Increase never outpaces your discipline. Favor never replaces reverence. Your life becomes a quiet testimony. One that does not shout, but endures. One that does not impress quickly, but lasts. One that reflects a God who values depth over display, faithfulness over speed, obedience over applause. This is the wisdom that keeps you from stumbling. This is the prayer that guards your soul. This is the path that allows blessing to remain a gift, not a trap, and you continue walking it day by day, with steady steps and a surrendered heart. And you continue walking it day by day with steady steps and a surrendered heart. You do not rush ahead of God, and you do not lag behind Him. You stay close. You stay listening. You stay responsive. This closeness becomes your greatest protection. When blessing comes quietly, you notice it. When correction comes gently, you receive it. When direction shifts, you adjust without resistance. You begin to understand that obedience is not restrictive. It is clarifying. It narrows your focus so your strength is not wasted. It simplifies your decisions so your energy is not divided. It anchors your emotions so circumstances do not control your peace. In this clarity, blessing no longer confuses you. It fits. There is a settled confidence that grows in you. Not the confidence that says you are strong enough on your own, but the confidence that says God is faithful enough to be trusted. This confidence keeps you from grasping. It keeps you from striving. It keeps you from forcing outcomes that are not yet ready. You learn to let God pace your life. Some days are full. Some days are quiet. You no longer measure your worth by productivity alone. You measure it by faithfulness. Were you obedient today? Were you attentive today? Were you humble today? These questions shape your steps. When challenges arise alongside blessing, you do not interpret them as contradictions. You see them as companions. You know that refinement often walks with favor. You do not ask God to remove every difficulty. You ask Him to form you through it. This prayer keeps you steady. You also learn to guard your inner language. You do not say, I deserve this. You say, I am entrusted with this. You do not say, I earned this. You say, I am responsible for this. This shift keeps pride from taking root. It keeps gratitude alive. As time goes on, you notice that obedience has quietly changed you. You react more slowly. You listen more carefully. You choose your words with greater wisdom. You are less impressed by appearances and more attentive to fruit. These changes are not dramatic, but they are deep. You realize that God's blessings are safest when they are received with open hands, not clenched fists. Open hands can release as easily as they receive. Open hands remain flexible. Open hands stay dependent. This posture allows God to give and take without shaking your faith. When others ask how you remain steady, you do not point to a technique. You point to a posture. Surrender. Daily surrender. Not once, but continually. Not perfectly, but honestly. This surrender is what keeps blessing from becoming a burden. You understand now that spiritual maturity is not measured by how much you have, but by how well you remain aligned. Alignment keeps your steps straight. Alignment keeps your vision clear. Alignment keeps your heart soft. So you keep praying the prayer that guards your future and honors God. Lord, let your blessings refine me, not replace you. Let increase deepen my obedience, not dilute it. Let favor strengthen my humility, not weaken it. Shape me continuously, so I can walk faithfully for a lifetime. And with this prayer alive in you, you move forward without fear. Blessing may come or go, but your foundation remains. Circumstances may change, but your devotion stays steady. You are not anchored to outcomes. You are anchored to God. This is the quiet strength of a life surrendered. This is the safety of obedience practiced daily. This is the wisdom of praying not just for blessing, but for the grace to carry it well. You continue forward with this understanding shaping the way you live, the way you decide, the way you pray. There is no rush in you anymore. There is no need to prove anything. You have learned that God is not impressed by speed. He is honored by faithfulness. And faithfulness is built quietly, choice by choice, moment by moment. You notice that when blessing comes now, it does not distract you from God. It draws you closer. You return to prayer not out of fear, but out of gratitude. You open your heart not because you are desperate, but because you are dependent. Dependence no longer feels weak to you. It feels right. It feels safe. There are moments when you sense God slowing you down even while opportunities increase. In the past, you might have resisted this. Now you welcome it. You understand that slowing down is often how God protects your soul. You pause before committing. You pause before speaking. You pause before celebrating. These pauses are sacred. They give space for wisdom to speak. You become comfortable with saying no, even to good things when they threaten your focus. You understand that not every open door is yours to walk through. Some doors are distractions dressed as opportunity. Discernment teaches you that obedience is not about doing more. It is about doing what God has assigned you, and when you do what He has assigned you, there is peace in it. Even when it is demanding, even when it stretches you, even when it requires sacrifice, peace is not the absence of effort. It is the presence of alignment. You begin to recognize the subtle signs of drift more quickly now. When prayer becomes rushed, when gratitude becomes assumed, when humility begins to slip. These signs do not alarm you. They alert you. You respond early. You adjust quickly. You return to your foundation. Returning becomes easier because you never strayed far. Daily obedience keeps you close. Daily surrender keeps you aware. You do not wait for a crisis to reconnect. You remain connected. You also learn to hold blessing lightly in conversation. You do not center your identity around what God has given you. You center it around who He is forming you to be. This keeps comparison from taking root. It keeps jealousy from entering your heart. It keeps contentment alive. You rejoice in others, success without measuring it against your own. You trust that God's timing for you is precise, not early, not late. Exact. This trust frees you from impatience. It frees you from striving. It frees you from unnecessary pressure. As years pass, you begin to see how obedience compounds. Small faithful choices made long ago are now bearing fruit. Habits you once struggled to build are now sustaining you. Disciplines that once felt heavy are now carrying you. This is the quiet power of consistency. You also see how God has protected you from yourself, from desires that would have led you off course, from ambitions that would have consumed your peace, from blessings that would have arrived before your character could sustain them. This awareness deepens your reverence. Reverence keeps your heart soft. It reminds you that God is not a resource to use, but a presence to honor. You approach Him with gratitude, not demands, with humility, not assumptions, with trust, not entitlement. And when hardship visits again, as it always does in some form, you are not shaken. You know hardship is not a sign that blessing has left. It is often a sign that God is still shaping you. You remain faithful in scarcity just as you do in abundance. This faithfulness becomes your testimony. Not loud, not dramatic, but consistent. People see it over time. They notice your steadiness. They sense your peace. They recognize that your life is not driven by impulse, but by conviction. And when they ask how you carry responsibility without being crushed by it, you know the answer. You carry it with God. You do not carry it alone. You bring decisions to Him. You bring fears to Him. You bring successes to Him. This shared burden keeps you light. You understand now that the prayer you once prayed in fear has become a prayer you pray in wisdom. Pray that God's blessings will not become a stumbling block. It is not a prayer of hesitation. It is a prayer of maturity. It recognizes the weight of blessing and the value of preparation, so you continue praying it. Not because you doubt God's goodness, but because you respect His wisdom. You trust Him to give, and you trust Him to withhold. You trust Him to lead, and you trust Him to correct. And as you live this way, blessing becomes something beautiful. It does not elevate you above others. It draws you closer to them. It does not isolate you. It humbles you. It does not distract you from God. It points you back to Him. This is the life shaped by obedience. This is the life guarded by surrender. This is the life where blessing remains a gift, not a danger, and you keep walking, quietly, faithfully, day by day. You keep walking, even when the road feels familiar, especially then. Familiarity can be comforting, but it can also soften vigilance. You have learned not to relax your obedience simply because life feels stable. Stability is not permission to drift. It is an opportunity to deepen roots. You stay attentive to the small things, the quiet checks in your spirit, the gentle nudges to pause, the subtle reminders to pray before responding. These are not interruptions. They are invitations. Invitations to remain aligned. Invitations to stay close. You notice how easily routine can turn into autopilot if you are not careful. So you stay intentional. You remind yourself why you pray, why you wait, why you listen. Purpose keeps routine alive. Without purpose, even good habits can become empty motions. Blessing continues to arrive in different forms. Sometimes it looks like provision. Sometimes it looks like clarity. Sometimes it looks like restraint. You no longer rank these gifts. You receive them all with gratitude. You understand that restraint can be as protective as provision. That clarity can be as valuable as increase. When God says no, you no longer assume rejection, you assume guidance. When He says wait, you no longer feel forgotten, you feel protected. This trust did not appear overnight. It was built through many small obediences that proved God faithful. You also learn to forgive yourself quickly when you miss a step, not to excuse carelessness, but to avoid discouragement. You examine, you correct, you return. Shame does not improve obedience. Humility does. So you choose humility. As your life grows fuller, you simplify where you can. You remove what is unnecessary. You protect what is essential. You understand that complexity can weaken focus. Simplicity strengthens it. You choose fewer commitments with deeper faithfulness. Your prayers become more listening than speaking. You are no longer trying to persuade God. You are trying to understand Him. This shift brings peace. You trust that He knows what you need before you ask. Your role is to stay receptive. You remain aware that influence, when it comes, is also a test. Influence amplifies what already exists. So you keep tending your heart. You keep correcting attitudes quickly. You keep asking God to search you and refine you. You measure progress differently now. Not by applause, but by alignment. Not by recognition, but by obedience. Not by how much you have gained, but by how faithfully you have walked. This measure keeps your heart steady. You continue to choose the long view. You are not building for a season. You are building for a lifetime. This perspective shapes your decisions. It slows impulsive choices. It strengthens patient ones. And even when others move faster, louder, more visibly, you are not shaken. You know your assignment. You know your pace. You trust your path. Comparison no longer has power over you. You remain faithful in the unseen moments, those moments when no one affirms you, when no one notices your discipline, when obedience feels quiet and ordinary. You know these moments matter most, because it is here in the unseen that God prepares you to carry what is seen. It is here that blessing is made safe. It is here that your heart stays anchored. So you keep praying with wisdom. You keep walking with humility. You keep listening with patience. And day by day, your life continues to reflect a simple truth. Blessing does not have to lead to stumbling. When obedience leads the way, blessing follows safely behind.